Hello, everybody. We are back. I'm back with Dr. Joe. We have been discussing on this series about the data visualization. We had a couple of sessions already, and this is a series that's going further. And today's topic, which you are well aware of, is the data visualization, but from the perspective of the power of advocacy. And how can you win hearts as well as the minds? So it is to do with emotional connect. It is also to do with the cognitive connect. So how can you win over that? So first of all, thank you very much for watching this series and commenting and reaching out to us. It certainly helps us. It certainly fuels us to do much more. Even though Dr. Joe is very busy, most of the times he's encouraged to be available on time, for the series. We also like a lot of questions that you have asked. So I suggest that from wherever you are connecting, please leave a comment and tell us more about from where you are connecting. And if you have any questions, certainly this is the time for everybody to ask questions because we have an expert here. Okay, so let me welcome Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe, welcome back to the series of data
Hello, Dr.
visualization.
Imad. Thank you, sir. It's such an honor and pleasure to be with you here today.
Thank you. How are you doing? Hope all is well with you.
Yes, sir. I was a little sick last week, but I'm doing better now. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well
Excellent,
also.
excellent, excellent. Um, we as human beings need to ever evolve, ever learn, and especially the times that we are seeing, I feel that really I take pride uh, in learning all these things and being born and being a student in this era because there's so much that is evolving and nobody can just stop learning it because that's what keep us moving upwards, spiraling upwards, taking us to the next level. And as part of that learning, we also thought that why don't we also share it? Because we have learned so much, but we can share it and also learn back from others. So, Dr. Joe, if you can recall our last session or the series where we wanted to just connect it back to that series from
Hmm.
the data visualization perspective. So if you have to just put the dots between the previous one and this
Sure.
one just to summarize it.
Absolutely, Dr. Imad. So last time we talked about building strong foundations, excuse me, with data quality and data governance. It's not just about the data visualizations. We've been spending quite a bit of time on that, as well we should. The
Yeah.
data has to be presented in a visually compelling manner, but it does no good for that to happen unless the appropriate foundation is in place. And that
Right.
foundation comes from the right kind of data quality, data governance. We explored some of the foundational elements. We identified some key quality data governance principles, data quality principles to ensure that the data visualizations are done effectively. We talked about how to prioritize data. We talked about how to leverage data storytelling techniques. We talked about simplifying complex data sets, understanding how it happens, ensuring that these things are both informative and engaging. And the biggest part of it is to ensure that a culture of innovation
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is instilled. Right. It's important to remember that we need to do things better today than we did yesterday and strive to
Yeah.
do even better tomorrow. Right.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer, Dr. Ahmad, that if you're not innovating, you're stagnating. Mediocrity is the key to stagnation. They say necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
Well, mediocrity is the father of stagnation. Okay, and we cannot do that. We have to continue progressing. And that's why I'm really excited about our topic today to continue to improve and evolve and ensure that we are indeed making the case the for the data visualization principles that we're talking about, the power of advocacy. We cannot stress that enough, and I'm very much looking forward to dive into that with you today, sir.
Yeah. Thanks for summarizing that. We have great audience today. We have, Fatima joining from Portugal. We have, people joining in from Armenia, India, Bahrain. You could see these comments there.
I
Uh,
see that.
Welcome back. Some of you probably might have joined earlier. And then we have from Saudi Arabia, we have from Dubai. So we have, several people joining almost around the globe. So probably for US, it is still early, but I'm sure and I believe that they would be able to watch the, recording later on.
Yes, sir.
So coming back to our topic of today, which is the power of advocacy.
Mhm.
So, first of all, probably, we can give a little bit of briefing on the advocacy, what exactly it is, and how this is impacting, especially the visualization is impacting both heart as well as the mind. If you can just introduce the topic, and then maybe we will go into little bit of deep dive, of connecting back the visualizations to our mental as well as emotional perspectives.
Sure. Yeah. Before getting into that, the cognitive and emotional, um, yeah, it's important to make the case, right? People will not see the value of a particular concept until they can see that it's valuable to them.
Mm,
Right. I mean, I can talk all day about the wonders of a chocolate chip cookie. Uh, but if you're not convinced that it is something that will be good for you, then I don't care how eloquent I might be about the extolling the virtues of the chocolate chip cookie, you're not going to want to eat it. Now,
yeah,
someone would have to be fairly strange and out of their mind to not like a chocolate chip cookie. But there are some people in the world who actually do not like chocolate. I don't
yeah,
understand why, but I'm teasing, of course. But it's advocacy. It's knowing to make the case. It's helping the individual see the intrinsic value of the concept that you're trying to explore. Whether you're talking about data visualizations or whatever topic that comes up, making the case, getting buy-in from the other individual, having
yeah.
them see the value. That's 90% of the battle right there. The person is already convinced in their own mind whatever
Mm, mm,
biases, whatever preconceived notions that they had will be defeated and will be um, put to rest when they know that, okay, we're on the same page. I see the same value in this that
yeah,
you see
yeah,
because you have promoted the advocacy of the subject. You have made the case
yeah.
for the topic in mind.
Yeah, rightly said. Rightly said. Let me just, bring that perspective back. So, what you said is if it is not relevant and it is not connecting the visualizations or whatever you are presenting, if it does not connect emotionally or cognitively, then probably they might not buy that. So,
Exactly.
yeah, if you think about it, so from a criticality perspective, from the complexity perspective, how do you think that we must bring in the cognitive and emotional uh, processing and also presenting it out of the visualizations? What is your view on that?
Sure, Dr. Ahmad. So, you have hit upon a fundamental truth here, sir. See, visuals have a profound impact on how we perceive and process information, right?
Mm, mm,
This man named Mike Parkinson, he's the CEO and founder of Billion Dollar Graphics. He said it pretty eloquently, and I'm kind of paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly how he put it, but essentially, graphics speed up the way we communicate, and help us
Yeah.
better understand and more clearly remember what we've learned. They're like visual clues that we can use to unlock a deeper meaning and focus our attention so that it's
Mm.
more likely that we're going to remember what we've seen. Example, let's say your proposal for a new data analytics center has been approved by your government's technology ministry, right? And you've been working with various sponsors to raise a ton of money to fund it. Now,
Yeah.
during construction, you start getting concerned about cost overruns. But you've gotten so many expense reports that you are literally drowning in numbers. And the only thing that you have right now to get a handle on it are sets of spreadsheets, thousands and thousands of rows and columns to try to make sense of. You're going to go
Yeah.
through a whole lot of ibuprofen before
Yeah.
you understand, all right? But by contrast, a well chosen, properly configured set of graphs and visuals will focus your attention so that you can pinpoint the cause that you're looking for much more quickly, right?
Right.
That's the
Right.
cognitive side of things. But the power of visuals extends even further than that, sir. Because, see,
Mm.
Parkinson also emphasized the emotional impact of graphics. Again, I'm paraphrasing the concept that he advocated and talk about advocacy here.
Yeah.
Graphics also improve our mindset. They affect our feelings. Okay, they
Mm.
they
Mm.
connect with our creativity by stimulating different parts of the brain, leading for us to more fully understand what's being presented. Okay,
Mm. Mm.
continuing
Mm.
with the analogy that I started a minute ago here. Um, let's suppose that you're committed to, say, promoting computer literacy among school-aged children from
Yeah.
economically disadvantaged families. That'll
Yeah.
touch your heart,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've been
Yeah.
working with, say, the National Science Foundation or some other agency, whatever it's called in your country, to set up, say, code camps for the kids. But you're having a hard time gauging the effectiveness of this new program, so you want data to prove it, one way or the other. You
Mm.
got to have data to prove one way or the other. But look what
Yeah.
happens here. You ask for data, and what are you given? Another set of spreadsheets. By now, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you are sick and tired of getting cross-eyed from staring at all those rows and columns. Again, by contrast, somebody else shows you just the right graph. Something catches your eye.
Yeah.
You see a dramatic improvement. I don't know, a spike in a bar chart or something, and boom, you have instantly made an emotional connection with your data. You're looking at something you're really, really passionate about. And
Mm.
now your understanding has been awakened, your eyes have been opened, and you have the insight that you need. You know, Dr. Ahmad, they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And
Yeah.
that's something that no static spreadsheet or tabular report could possibly do anywhere nearly as quickly as the pictures.
Right.
Essentially, graphics get a hold of both our brains and our hearts. And any endeavor, whether you say it's educational or not, any
Mm.
endeavor that manages to touch both the brain and the heart, well, it's bound to be successful, right? And
Mm.
and this applies equally to data visualization, Dr. Ahmad. Um, Creating emotionally resonant and compelling visualizations will enable us to not only communicate information, but also inspire action and drive meaningful change. We are advocating for it. And once
Yeah.
we've done that, um, I'd like to get your take on this, sir. Um, when when you consider the powerful influence of visuals on
Hmm.
both our thinking as well as our emotions and attitudes here, right? How can organizations leverage this understanding to create data visualization? And Dr. Ahmad, I'm not talking about ones that just inform, but also ones that inspire and motivate their audiences when we make the case and advocate for them. What's your take on that, sir?
Yeah. Thanks for explanation. And to answer your question, if there is any visualization that does not have a motivation connected with the persona to whom we are presenting, and if it does not inspire, if it does not influence, and if it is not an innovative technique, I say that don't do it, because
Right.
then why do we do it? And when we say motivation of it, and even in our organizations and wherever I travel around, sometimes the things are presented that does not have any motivation for the audience. And that motivation, the moment that motivation is missing, they give least importance to whatever is being presented. So
Yeah.
I would like to take maybe an example of it. You have taken an example of a candy, but let's suppose we are talking about maybe a country somewhere which is not at all on a radar of somebody, and we are talking about the issues of that particular country, and we are presenting some numbers, visualization of it, and the audience doesn't have the background about that country. They don't
Mm,
have any objectives. They cannot relate themselves with that particular country, but you are presenting something that is absolutely of not a concern to them. I have taken a weird example, but that's how it has to be emotionally connected. That's how it has to be cognitively connected. So when you are doing something like that, which is an unknown territory, when you are doing it, what you can do is the storytelling comes in very very handy there.
yes,
So
it
there are
does.
certain people who come and who just present saying that, you see, this is going 30%, this is coming down X%, and this is where you have the variances, and this is what it is. Rather than that, we focus on the person of it, and give them little bit of background of on what is the data source from where we have extracted, what exactly this particular infographics is all about, or demographics all about, and what is in it for you. See, this is very important. If you do not say that what is in it for you, or what is in it for the team, or what is in it for us, then you won't be able to actually motivate anybody. You won't be able to influence. So even now we are seeing, be it on LinkedIn, be it everywhere, there are a lot of visualizations that have been streaming, and a lot of visualizations makes no sense, not because they are wrong or not because they are bad, because there is no motivation for you. There is
Right.
hardly any influence or impact on you. So those are innovative, very nice graphs, very nice pie charts, very nice information, well presented it. But where is the motivation? There is no motivation. So you are unable to connect yourself to that particular presentation. And unless you are being told, unless you have been given a heads up what exactly is in it for you from each infographic, and what can you capitalize on it, then obviously they feel that they are well connected cognitively, they are well connected emotionally. So that's what is my take.
Excellent.
I would like to connect this question back to you, such as if somebody would like to advocate right data visualizations, and trying to articulate the power of advocacy, the power of acceptance, and all of that. From your perspective, what are the things you know uh, any organization faces in terms of the resistance, in terms of the skepticism? What do you think? Why doesn't organizations actually bring in advocacy as number one aspect of it or approach of it?
Mm. Well, uh, excuse me. Here's um, here's yet another crucial aspect of successful data visualization that you bring up, Dr. Ahmad. Advocacy, right? Making the
Mm,
case, like we mentioned earlier. You know,
yeah,
simply creating these beautiful data visualizations that we've been talking about, that's not enough, as you so eloquently pointed out. We have to eloquently communicate their value and build support for their widespread adoption within the organization, right?
yeah,
Advocacy, making the case, letting them see the value. What is in it for me, as you said? They have a value. Um, they have an impact. The visuals, I mean, in how we process information right here, right here, right here.
mm,
Enhance cognitive function, improve uh, memory retention, and even evoke strong memory responses. And when we leverage that inherent power, we create these visualizations that inform, inspire, persuade, motivate, get that motivation that you're talking about.
right,
Example,
right.
um, imagine presenting financial information, right?
Mm,
And you're doing it financial performance data. I mean, solely through lengthy tabular paper static reports, filled with tables and numbers, the rows
Yeah.
and columns that we talked about earlier, right? This plain Jane approach, this stale, lifeless, static approach is likely to be met with disinterest, confusion, maybe even resistance at best. But by
Right.
visualizing the same data through, say, interactive dashboards, charts that highlight key trends, performance metrics, the story behind the data, we can engage our audience, make the information more accessible, and increase the likelihood of meaningful action. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
However, gaining that buy-in we're talking about for data visualization initiatives, in spite of how pretty we might make them look,
Mm,
let's face it, that
mm,
can sometimes be challenging, right? The advocacy we're talking about here, not easy. It's harder than it seems sometimes because
mm.
there may be some of that resistance that you're talking about, from colleagues who might be a little more comfortable with traditional
Yeah.
methods of presentation. They might have some concerns, excuse me, about the time and the
Yeah.
resources required that you have to create that. So to overcome these challenges, we ourselves must become effective advocates for the power of visual communication. In other words,
Mm.
before we convince anybody else, we need to convince ourselves,
Ourselves.
right?
Yeah.
And show that passion, clearly articulating the benefits of data visualization, showing that passion. More than that, demonstrating its value to them through
Mm.
compelling examples like the ones I shared, the ones you shared,
Yeah.
building strong relationships with key stakeholders across the entire organization, talking with them, letting them see personally that your desire for improving the bottom line is the same as their desire.
Mm.
Never,
Mm.
ever, ever adopt an adversarial standpoint. Hey, folks, we're on the same team. We're on the same side. We want the same thing. And
Right.
this is how it will benefit you. I want you to see for yourself. Let me show you, approach it from that angle. Okay.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
That's my take on it. But really, getting back to the CEO's perspective, how do you think that organizations can leverage some of these techniques to effectively communicate these values, right? The value of data driven decision making to the entire organization, not just part of it. And
Yeah.
thereby by doing that, we can inspire greater engagement with data initiatives. How do you
Yeah.
see that, sir?
Yeah. See, from a storytelling perspective, let me give an example of it. Let's suppose somebody is presenting the productivity of a team. I personally believe that first showcase what exactly has been achieved against the
Yes.
KPIs, so that you can create, you know, a positivity around. And when do you have to do it? Again, this is something that we all can learn from our experiences. When you see that the team is little bit down, and then if you want to, go and motivate them, inspire them, influence them, then you talk about the positivities first, and then that way you can say that, guys, we have done well in terms of it. Then you can take a pause. However, just look at this, we could have capitalized on this, we could have done this better. So you see, that's the storytelling.
Right.
But if you go into probably a meeting wherein it's been presented to a team who is overconfident about it, then you also need to actually give them the reality check, which means
Hmm.
you need to present that, guys, you all feel that you're doing good from this perspective, check this is the reality. Yes, however, yeah, we can come out of it. See, those are the techniques that each one will learn depending upon who are the audiences and what is the topic, what is the subject, and what is the objectivity of that entire conversation. And if you don't bring in those skills, which are the soft skills, into it, then that would be great. And I will give you an example of it. I have seen certain meetings, especially where in Middle East, where I'm working very closely, is that most of the times when it comes to the performance KPIs of it, KRAs of it, and those are the yearly performance reports that are presented, the guys are shaky, they are concerned. Sometimes, they don't even get enough sleep for a week or so before that performance, because it's been presented in a boardroom. to the team leaders. And then if something doesn't go well, then the leadership changes happen instantaneously, you get
Mm.
nailed. So those are the situations where you probably will have to, first of all, because the situation is very tense, you go in there, you start with certain things, because we have put on these objectives and we have not achieved it. However, I think we can achieve them because of this progress. And then you start with your storytelling, then you start with your visualization of it, and then take them progressively.
Yeah.
And walking them through the progressive approach is actually much better than just jumping from completely a negative to a positive. So you need to showcase the journey of it, whether it is bad to good, or
Good to
good to
bad.
best, or whatever it is. So those are the things that you will have to. And if you don't articulate it well, then people will come out of the meeting so stressed that it will have larger impact on the other stuff. Okay. So
Hmm.
that's why I say that the storytelling is a technique, the storytelling is an art, the storytelling is something
Yes.
that you need to be prepared, be agile, depending upon the situation. How do you, tell the story about it? And again, at the end of the day, we all are human beings. We all have the, emotional factors into it, cognitive factors into it. So you need to balance it between them. And I think, that's where the advocacy also comes in. So if you are presenting it and somebody else advocates what you are presenting is, you get support around that, or you get a rational around that, then that is much, better for you, rather than only, you are presenting it and you are talking good about it, but others feel that it is bad. So it is how you, bring in the advocacy in practice. How do you, present it? Then the other thing also, I'm taking a little bit more time on that. Other thing is also that instead of directly presenting it there, you let those team members present it to each other and see the reality check. We do not want to give
Hmm.
somebody a shock in a boardroom, that you have performed very well or you have performed less, because you might get some feedback from the others saying that, but what is the rationale behind this? Why are you saying this is good, or why are you saying this is the progress? Why are you saying that we could not actually capitalize on that? What is it that we lagged in it? So you would be able to have different minds. So once you have those hearts and minds connecting, outside of the boardroom before you present it, that's actually a better thing, because you would have, the advocacy built in already in your conversation.
Absolutely. Always tie it back to something they already know. I think
Yeah,
that's part of the secret of education. I'm not everybody is an educator. I was an educator before I got into IT, and
yeah,
I knew that the secret to getting the point across when it's something that if you're diving into the unknown, always connect the known to the unknown. Right?
yeah,
Always tie back to something that they're interested in, like what you said about the KPIs. How does this relate to goals, mission, vision, and goals that we have already established? And you make that connection. Something they don't know is the data you're presenting. Something they do know are the key performance indicators that they have already determined are this is how we measure success. And to the
right,
extent that you're able to present and advocate for what you have as it lines up to the way that they measure that success, then you yourself will already be successful. That is oh my gosh, you're a genius. That is an excellent way of putting it, sir.
thank you for that. But I'm talking to a genius here, so let me ask you this question. So, from the cognitive perspective or emotional impact perspective,
Hmm.
what do you think that the strategy should be for the data analyst? And there's also a
Mm.
question wherein, uh, so the question is that, is data analyst a good role or a profession? So maybe you can tie it back to it, then that would be great.
Sure. Data analysis is a great profession because that's what's going to inform the strategy that you're going to use. You have to have some sort of framework. And I believe that there are several strategies that data analysts can employ to become effective advocates.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll mention these rather briefly, Dr. Ahmad. First of all, clearly articulate the benefits, right? We talked about that in a way. Start by clearly explaining how your particular visualization can benefit the organization, right? Increase efficiency, improve decision making, enhanced communication, greater engagement with the data itself, knowing what your data is like, so that when
Right.
somebody presents something, if you're more familiar with it, then you're going to know if they're feeding you a line of bull or not. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When your own sense of rightness and wrongness, right, you have to know what to expect. Okay.
Yeah.
Second, compelling evidence. Don't just make a bunch of crazy claims, back them up with concrete evidence. Share
Yeah.
research findings, case studies, and even real world examples like the ones you've given, right? That demonstrate the positive impact of data
Mm.
visualization. Okay, one example that comes to mind, consider the impact of Hans Rosling. He had some Gapminder presentation, I think it was called. He was a Oh my gosh, he was a renowned public health professor from Sweden. Just
Mhm.
masterfully used animated visualizations way before his time,
I
to
see.
illustrate, yeah, global health and development trends. We're talking about this was more than 20 years ago. It was groundbreaking at the time. Nobody had ever tried it before, and his captivating presentations not only informed audiences about critical global challenges, but they
Hmm.
also inspired hope and action, demonstrating the power of data visualization to drive social change and
I
influence
see.
global policy, stuff that everybody's interested in. Imagine how much more we can do with the tools we have today. Um,
Mm.
Thirdly, I guess it's more on the human side. Build those relations. We talked about that. Build relationships. I cannot stress that enough, Dr. Ahmad. Cultivate strong relationships with key stakeholders across the
Mm.
entire organization, whether you
Mm.
feel you get along with them or not. It can include executives, managers, colleagues, people in other departments. Don't look at it with blinders. Go to the top, go to the bottom, go to the middle. Be fit, thorough.
Right.
Be as
Right.
inclusive as possible. I mentioned this earlier, but the stronger your relationships and the more numerous that you can make them, the more likely they are going to support your initiatives. Their strength in numbers. Fourth, culture, the culture of data literacy, right? It's got to come from
Yeah.
everybody. A
Yeah.
culture of data literacy within the organization so they know what's right. Okay, we talked quite a bit about culture in our last session last month,
Yeah.
didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, it applies here as well, sir, because this means, I don't know, providing training resources to help employees at all levels, again, from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, and everywhere in between. There's that inclusivity again. Data is not just for the data people. Everyone ought to develop data visualization skills. Everybody needs to understand the value of data driven decision making.
Yeah.
Whether they consider themselves to be a developer type or not, it doesn't matter. We all need these skills. Just like security is not just for the CISO, data literacy is not just for the developer.
Yeah.
And finally, lead by example. You
Mm.
yourself be a champion for data visualization within your own work. Create compelling and insightful visualizations that demonstrate the power of this approach.
Mm.
So, um, in your experience as a CEO, Dr. Ahmad, um, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges that organizations face when trying to implement these strategies that we've been talking about, this data driven culture that we've been talking about? And how can data visualization be used to overcome these challenges, sir?
Thanks, Dr. Joe, for your comprehensive response on that. Now, talk about the data-driven decision making or the culture. For that, there are several barriers I see. The first thing is that, let me just, from a LinkedIn perspective, if you look at
Mm,
it, everybody says that we are AI ready, AI ready, AI ready.
That's a
but
buzzword these days.
or they have aspirations to be AI ready by. But my question to them is that if you want to be AI ready, and then you definitely have to establish a data driven decision making culture. And if you are not
Yes.
doing that, having AI ready is not going to help. That's one. The second thing
Right.
is not having the right data or right qualified data with the right quality data, you know, it is not going to help you make data driven decision making. And what we see here is, and it's, I think, it's in a single digit if you look at it. How many organizations are truly data driven? Probably it is single digit percentage. And
Hmm.
still everybody feels that they are making the decisions based on the facts. But you need to check, whether that data is fed into the system by the right people, or is it coming from the
Right.
processes? Is it coming from the transactions? Is it coming from the other systems is what you have to look at. So everybody feels that they have the right data to make the decision, but you need to check that data. And in this case, again, I would like to take my example, famous example, where I say that the data, whenever you want to make a data driven decision making approach or the culture, you need to ensure that the data that you have is fit for purpose, because it's the same data set. It might be fitting sales reporting, but it might not be fitting the marketing reporting. Both of them are two different. It's the same data
Right.
which might not give you insights into the operations. It's the same data set which might have some elements, but it might not give you a financial report. So the data set on which you are actually building your visualization, the data set that you are actually utilizing for the data visualization to present it, and to sometimes get accolades, or sometimes get back the boxing punches back from the audience. In either cases, you need to ensure that you have the right data quality. And we have seen several organizations where they say that, yeah, what are you doing? No, I'm doing a digital transformation. But do you have all the data? Yeah, yeah, we have all the data. How many systems do you have? Probably I need to check. See, that's where that they do not have even a registry of what are the systems hosting what kind of data. And that is definitely not a data driven culture. And whoever is inputting the data within the systems, they are not being governed. The practices are not being implemented. The methodologies are not being implemented. So my way of taking it is that, first of all, ensure that you have the data coming from the right sources and it is the fit for
Right.
purpose data. And once you bring that in, and then you validate it, you qualify it, you quantify it, then you will be able to build the right visualization. And those visualizations would be able to give you the right insights to make the right decisions. So there are a lot of baby steps before you can even call yourself a data driven organization or digitally transformed organization. And this is now becoming very popular. What are you doing? No, we are implementing AI. On what are the use cases? Yeah, we would like to predict this, but from where the data is coming, I need to check. So I'm not sure about it. So that's where you are failing. So if your foundation is not governed in terms of the data quality, in terms of the data culture, then you won't be able to build the decision making capabilities out of visualizations. Because I can tell you that I have seen in my career, there are tens of opportunities somebody has lost just because they could not articulate the return on investment properly, whether it is tangible
Right.
benefits or intangible benefits of it, but the visualization didn't talk about those numbers, whether from the efficiency perspective, whether from the effectiveness perspective or productivity perspective, they could not articulate it, and they lost it. But if you really go deep into it, the data that they have presented was not right data. So if you do not have the right data driven culture within your organization, it will be very hard for you to build visualizations out of it and convince somebody. And in that case, you would lose out on several opportunities where you could have actually capitalized. And I'm seeing even now this year as well, I know of several people who have started the AI initiatives, but what are they doing? They are doing the decision making based on some of the source or some of the data sets that are unfamiliar to them. But they say that, yeah, we have a model. And by the way, building AI model is simple. Now you give your data, you train it, but whether the data that you are sharing, whether the data that you are feeding those systems, is that the data right data, and does it have this emotional connect, does it have the cognitive connect, and would you be able to
Hmm.
get support from your people? From the advocacy perspective, will there be any other people who would really buy your thinking around that? And will they support the data? Will they advocate for the data that you have prepared? And if not, then you are losing out from day one. You don't even
Yes.
start on a visualization or storytelling kind of thing. So that's my take.
Yes. And that's a mic drop right there. That's brilliant, sir. Brilliant.
um, Thank you, Dr. Joe. Then the other question that I would like to know from you is that
Hmm.
um, we have seen that if it is a visual, you would be able to articulate it very quickly. Your mind would be able to understand it very quickly and immediately draw the insights or conclusions, all of that. And several researchers have suggested that. And because that's really a cognitive power of it, huh? The moment you are looking at it, you see
Hmm.
how we all are connected. By just looking at a graph immediately, you process a lot of several parameters you take into consideration, and then you immediately make a decision saying that, okay, this is right, or this is not going right, or that. So with that in mind, so
Right.
what capabilities of human that you see that we should bring it into the data visualization for more compelling storytelling, for more power to the advocacy?
Yeah. No. Oh my gosh. That is that's um exactly what I wanted to uh, I love talking about that. There's I'm trying to think of his name, David McCandless. He's a British data journalist. He pointed this out in a TED talk that he gave several years ago. He said sight by far has the
Yeah,
highest bandwidth of any of our senses.
right.
Right? It's our dominant sense. We know that. And we process visual information far more efficiently than we do text. And this is further supported, excuse me, research from a couple of European research professors, um, Emery Sawyer and Robin Hogar. They demonstrated that even experienced economists, for example, these people were more likely to arrive at a correct answer when they were presented with data in a visual format than in other format. Now in that
Right,
study, Hogarth and Sawyer, they asked three groups of economic professionals, like 100 of them or something, just one question, and all the same question regarding a particular data set. Okay.
right.
Well, when the first group was given the data and a standard statistical analysis of that data, had a 72% error rate. Okay. Now,
Wow.
to me, that's amazing to consider they only had one question to answer. And clearly, nearly three out of every four of them got it wrong. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Then they came to a second group. All right. They were given the same data, the same analysis, right? But this group got a graph. Okay.
Mm,
The second group was able to improve upon the first group, but they still had a 61% error rate. They did better, but still almost two out of every three got it wrong.
yeah.
All right. Now, stark contrast to the first two groups. Okay. The third group, get this now, they they were only presented with the graph. That's all they got. No data, no analysis, nothing. They just gave them the graph.
Mm,
This group, the third group, achieved a 97% accuracy
wow.
rating. It blows me away when I think about it. The incredible contrast
Yeah.
highlights the profound impact of visual representation on our ability to understand and interpret complex information. McCandless hit the nail on the head, even though his
Mm,
TED talk was like, I don't know, 15 years ago almost. It still rings true. Now, leveraging this understanding, we've got to shift our approach with data visualization, Dr. Ahmad, because We got to move beyond simply presenting the data and
Mm-hmm.
strive to create these visualizations that are not only informative, but I keep on
Mm.
hammering away at that, engaging, memorable, exciting, visually compelling, right? This involves incorporating elements of visual storytelling, using techniques like metaphors, telling the story behind the data, as you so brilliantly mentioned, highlighting various elements, the things that are going to capture attention and stimulate imagination. That's what you got to do. Capture the attention, stimulate the imagination, make the
Mm.
connection. Let it be something that they're already interesting, right? Simply
Mm.
presenting a bar chart of sales figures won't do it. Use a
Yeah,
dynamic
yeah,
visualization that shows how sales have evolved over time,
yeah,
highlighting key trends and milestones. Animate the effect. There are many software packages that can accomplish this.
right,
See, this approach not only conveys the information you want to convey, but it also creates that sense of narrative. Again, the story behind the data, helping the audience understand the context, the
right,
significance, what it means to me, how I can relate to it. In essence, data visualization has the potential to completely transform how we perceive and interact with the world around us. Whether it involves understanding global health challenges or driving change in business and society. Because, you know, when you harness the power of visual communication, you not only make data more accessible and understandable to all, but
yeah,
you also have the potential to inspire action, drive change, and ultimately, I don't want to sound too rose-colored glasses, but you can build a better future.
yeah,
And let me tell you
absolutely,
something. Yeah, I tell the audience something. To unlock this all, we simply must become effective advocates for data visualization, championing its value within our organizations and inspiring others to embrace its power. For you
yeah,
see, when we effectively communicate the impact of visual storytelling and demonstrate its value through these compelling examples that you and I have been banging away about this morning, that you so
yeah,
brilliantly mentioned, we can be successful in building that strong foundation for a data driven future. So, if I can just implore with the audience, if I can encourage everyone watching us today, go make the case.
yeah,
Advocate for that strong foundation. Whew. All right.
yeah,
So after all that, sir, once again, from a CEO's perspective, Dr. Ahmad, um, how can organizations make the case, right, and
mm,
leverage these data storytelling techniques we've been talking about to
yeah,
effectively communicate the value of that data-driven decision making um, to the entire organization, thereby inspiring and
yeah.
advocating for greater engagement with data initiatives? And with this, I'll give you the final word for today, sir.
Thank you. Before I answer that, I mean, there are a lot of
Oh yeah,
comments coming in.
we do.
So most of the companies don't have a system which holds organized data, and that is the truth, Jacob. So it's not
Oh,
something you know people believe, and it's not something people easily accept. But that's the case, and that's why at PiLog we would like to empower the organizations to be data driven and AI driven. So first I'm saying data, and then it's the AI driven.
right.
And without having being able to be driven by data, you won't be able to achieve the AI vision.
I
Um,
couldn't agree with you more, sir, because it's like you have a Ferrari. Okay, who wouldn't want to have a Ferrari, right? Or a Lamborghini
yeah,
or a McLaren, Mercedes McLaren or whatever it's
yeah,
called, or for you, the US people, a Corvette or something. Yeah, but what good does that fancy, fast, amazing, technologically advanced automobile do for you if you do not put gasoline in the tank?
yeah,
Right? No matter how fancy dancy all these initiatives are, without your data being correct, it's like trying to drive a car without putting any gasoline in the engine. So
yeah.
that's a brilliant question. I love that. Thank you, Jacob,
Okay,
for that question. I may not be saying your name right, but thank you. That's a good
yeah,
question.
okay. So to answer that question, Dr. Joe, I personally believe that, and this has been a practice, that if you can have the inclusivity when you are
Yeah.
presenting the data visualization, then it's easier for you to actually present it, and you will have greater advocacy, greater acceptance. So what does that mean? Let's suppose if you are going to build the visualization for the entire organization's performance, and you are doing it on your own without involving each department and the stakeholders of it, and not collecting and connecting with them and the data of it, such as HR, marketing, operations, finance, and everybody. The moment you bring in the data from them and you also have some data points articulated out of it,
Hmm.
you would have your visualization click. Why? Because the people, whoever are in the room, they are easily connected because it's the data that they have given. So rather than you get all the data yourself and then build something, some visualization, immediately you would have a lot of questions on authenticity of it, authorization of it, from where did you got this data, whether this was a confidential data, and probably this is a outdated data. Oh, you have, some missing information, incorrect. So I personally believe that if you really would like to win over the data visualizations and bring everybody together and connect with them and also articulate it better and have the advocacy, which is, nothing but winning their emotional as well as cognitive capabilities, are their heart and mind, then you need to source the data from them. And when you
Yes.
are presenting the data belonging to them, source the data from them, or if you cannot source it, have it validated by them, have it accepted by them, then you would not, face so much of resistance. But if you don't do it, and if you do not have, that inclusivity in terms of the contribution, in terms of acceptance of it, then definitely they are going to throw you out of it and they will not accept. And it has happened in many cases.
Yes, it has.
So it's better to include them and have their rational, because that's not the end of it. You can always fine tune your visualizations depending
Right.
upon their critical feedback, but at least you are including them whenever you are sourcing the data, you are including them whenever you are validating the data and all of that. So that's what is is my final thing. Include the people so that you can connect with them emotionally as well as cognitively. Unless you do that, you won't be able to win over them, win, their hearts as well as minds. So with that, if I would like you to give some of the insights on this entire session, just in a minute or so, if you want to summarize it, because probably some of the guys might have joined late. Dr.
Sure.
Joe? Yeah.
Well, it's all about making the case. Dr. Ahmad has you've given us some really brilliant insights from your perspective, and we're if we include others in include them in the discussion, include their data, listen to their concerns, so
Yeah.
that you can then articulate you cannot advocate their concerns until you have articulated their concerns, right? No,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't advocate for your own concerns unless you have articulated their concerns, right? The
Right. Right.
articulation has to come before the advocation or the advocacy, whatever. And it's all about making sure that everybody knows that you are all on the same team, and you are not presenting anything that is contrary to what is in the best interest of
Right.
your organization.
Right.
That's what you're looking for. This is not a battle. This is not about proving yourself to be right. It's about proving that what's right and what's good for your organization.
Yeah.
Don't take it personal when you meet that resistance. Don't take it personally. Shift it. Look at it at the other side. If you see the resistance, it's because probably you've not been communicating something correctly.
Yeah.
Look at the situation from the other person's viewpoint. I mean, that's true in life, right? That's true when you're,
Absolutely.
when you're having just a regular forget the data. Just
Yeah.
think about what you learned in kindergarten, right?
Right.
Think about what you learned about sharing, what you learned about listening to the other person, what you learned about
Right.
taking their view into consideration. All those things you learned as a little child,
Yeah.
it comes back to haunt you as an adult if you didn't listen to it when you were a child. Don't be so set in your ways that you can't accept a different
Yeah.
viewpoint, because somebody else might be able to see something from a different angle that you missed, because you were
Right.
so set on proving your point that you didn't stop to look at the entire picture. And
Right.
or if you distort the data in some way, or if you zoom in on only a portion of the time period that you're looking at. Perhaps we can talk about that
Yeah.
in another session. About we've talked about starting the race, now making the case. What about motivating the base, right?
Yeah.
How can
Absolutely.
we get them to see the perils of distortion,
Yeah.
and how it can skew what's going on, where you cannot be proper advocates for the data. So, to summarize
Yeah.
it all, as you so brilliantly put it, sir, include everyone, make sure that you're presenting from their viewpoint, and let them see that we are on the same team. We want the same thing. We have the same goal.
Yeah. No, that's definitely the summary of today's discussion. Thank you very much. I could not read all the names and say hi to everybody, but I hope all of you are doing well, and I hope you have learned something that is valuable. And here we are with our experience and our learnings that we are sharing here. So next time when we come, probably we might bring in, a small demo of AI, wherein how AI analyzes the data and then how it gives you the responses based on what kind of data that you feed in. So probably we'll come up with a demo of it, and then maybe we will showcase that next time. Dr. Joe will talk about what is the immediate impact of having the wrong data quality from an AI perspective. So we're going to talk about that. But in the meantime, stay safe, keep doing your
Yes.
best, upskill yourself, learn,
Yes.
and if there is any, positive, negative feedback or any suggestions, please reach out to us. We are always available. We have a very good digital footprint, so you can always reach out to us. Thank you very much for your time today, Dr. Joe. Thank you very much for your time. I
The
know
honor
that you
was
are
mine.
very busy. I know that you
No,
are very
it was an
busy,
honor.
but this is also something that you enjoyed. So thank you
I
very
do.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Take care.